So the most interesting idea in this chapter from Spinoza was his idea of the free man, um, and like how he, I guess, or it interacts with the passions. So on page 231, um, states, the life of reason is a life in which the passions are well in check. The free person does not feel excessive love and desire for external goods and the pleasures they cause, nor hate for the evil things that may come his way. The interesting thing for me, is that the free man is like seemingly unable to feel emotions that are caused by external things. And then on the same page, he goes on um, to state the free person does not experience such troublesome attitudes, which he will regard as a species of madness. He knows neither sadness nor melancholy, and his cheerfulness is not inordinate by solidly grounded in the general well-being of his condition. For me, someone who is free um, is able to feel love and desire for things, even like material things, but chooses to act virtuously in spite of them. It's not the act of feeling something that makes someone free for me, um, but the choice to ignore them, like ignore those desires rationally. For number two, the most compelling idea for me was Spinoza's idea of the free man being completely active. So on page 236, um, he states, to be free is to be active. To be active is to be autonomous relative to external things. It is to live in accordance. It is to live according to reason. I find this compelling because I believe that contemplation and rational thinking are very important for competent human beings. Um, Something that a lot of the time might be missing people today. However, he goes on to state that this does not mean that his will is undetermined, and quote, it means that one's will does not follow or does follow from one's own nature, one's own internal striving to persevere and reason. Again, that's on page 236. And I think that while contemplation and rational thinking are essential for oneself, um, as I'll get to later, they're also applicable for the virtuous treatment of others. Um, for number three, sorry for the cut. I messed up a little bit, so I had to restart this one. But for number three, the most problematic idea that I found in Spinoza's theory of virtue is his actual definition of virtue. So, in the first complete paragraph on page 226, um, quote, Spinoza concludes, the foundation of virtue is this very striving to preserve one's own being. The virtuous person is the person who successfully follows the laws of his own nature and acts so as to preserve his own being. The problem I see with this is that Spinoza leaves no room for acting in accordance with others. Um, so to me, it seems like he's saying that it's almost unvirtuous, I don't know if that's a word, to act for the betterment of others. In other words, virtue is solely within oneself and can only be measured by the preservation of oneself. And I think maybe it's because I'm a Christian, um, but in like we were talking about, or not talking about, like the assignment for ethics class, um, a major theme that I found with all the readings were that like self-sacrifice seems to be more virtuous, at least to Jesus, than like egoism or Spinoza's view. Um, but this isn't to say that there's no room to be virtuous to oneself. I think there is places to be virtuous to oneself. Um, for example, not doing drugs when people are around you or doing drugs or something like that. But I think there's something more to the treatment, almost this self-sacrificial, um, like way that people should act. I don't know, that Christians are morally obligated to act. That is more virtuous to me than egoism.